What's going on, Bengals fans? Stone Shields on hand for our second edition of Bengals Breakdown here on a Tuesday. Cincinnati announced about an hour or so ago from when we're filming right now some guys that they're going to be bringing back next season as far as off-season workouts go. Just some guys that they want to be sticking around with the team over the course of the next couple of months with some reserve/futures contract signings. 11 guys were announced on this list for Cincinnati. Again, guys that will be coming back for this team. All these guys spent the end of Cincinnati's season here in 2024 on the practice squad. And I do want to make note, there's no reason to, freak out about any of these signings, right? Probably haven't heard of a ton of these guys unless you are a super diehard Bengals fan. All NFL teams do this across the entirety of the league. This is the norm. Teams do this time of year, especially when they are eliminated from postseason contention. They're just trying to lock up guys on the back end of their roster to be around for the offseason workouts. So we're going to be breaking down all of those guys. Again, they all finished on Cincinnati's practice squad to end the season. So we're going to be talking about those 11 guys that will be coming back, some of which you have heard of, some of which you have never heard of in your entire life. And we're going to be talking about them here on today's edition of Bengals Breakdown. Before we get into that, make sure you hit that subscribe button. All Bengals news. Bengals, have news. We're going to be talking about it here on Bengals Breakdown, even if it's not quote-unquote breaking news. Wouldn't call this breaking news, but it's news nonetheless. And it's our first kind of, roster moves that have been made since the end of the season. Obviously, some crazy moves with the coaching staff, Lou Anarumo getting fired. But from a personnel perspective, this is the first kind of type of moves that we can talk about. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our coverage. Trying to get to 16,000 subscribers. Hopefully, we can do that here within the next week. That would be pretty cool. So hit that sub button. YouTube.com/BengalsTV. First up here is Micah Abraham. He will be back on a reserve/future deal for Cincinnati. He played in the preseason with the Indianapolis Colts, and then he is going to be making a return for the Cincinnati Bengals. Was hanging out on the Bengals practice squad at the end of the season. He went to Marshall, was a 6th-round pick. And, I always like if they were drafted, right, some of these guys, a lot of these guys are undrafted guys, but if they were drafted within the past couple of years, it's always good to give these guys a chance, and potentially they can break out and bloom a little bit later. We'll see if Micah Abraham has any type of role with this team going forward. Next up, Gary Brightwell, running back for the Cincinnati Bengals. If you remember, a couple of months ago, we made a video when the Bengals signed Gary Brightwell to the practice squad. Thought maybe he would have some kind of role with the team. We never saw him. They went with Kendall Milton when they needed an emergency running back, which I think is the right call. Brightwell played several years ago with the New York Giants. Got a lot of playing time his second year in the league, but the past couple of years he's kind of bounced around on practice squads. Was with Cleveland before Cincinnati. Didn't really do much, but it's good to have another guy in that running back room. I think a lot of his teammates really appreciate him, and hopefully he can help all those running backs in the room, Chase Brown in particular, to really take that next step for Cincinnati next season. Next guy here is Nate Brooks. Now, you probably have heard of Nate Brooks. Nate Brooks is one of my favorite guys on this list. We talked about Nate Brooks a lot going into the season, and I thought he balled out for the Bengals in the preseason. Just the way the cornerback room was stacked, there really wasn't much of a chance for him to make the roster, and he just hung out on that practice squad for the entirety of the season. But he is a great guy to have on your practice squad, and I'm really excited that Nate Brooks is going to be back, at least in the offseason, for Cincinnati as we turn the page to 2025. Leads to the pinned comment of today's video. Could Nate Brooks make the team in 2025? Again, just kind of the way the cornerbacks were staggered, there really wasn't much of a shot for him to make it in 2024, despite the fact that I thought he played really well in the preseason. Let me know if you think that changes in 2025. Type Y for yes or N for no. If that ad comes here on YouTube, totally fine. Take advantage of it. Get down in the comment section. Let us know what you think. Now for my favorite guy on this list. Nate Brooks, probably my second favorite guy. Cole Burgess. He was an undrafted guy for the Bengals in 2024. He went to SUNY Cortland, a Division III school where he broke all kinds of records when he was in college. Was there, I believe, for 5 years. Was suspended for a year due to breaking some COVID regulations during that time back in 2020. But he was absolutely insane in college, and I'm really happy that he's going to be sticking around. Didn't get to see him in action for Cincinnati, but he's a guy that I feel like could eventually get some snaps on an NFL field at that wide receiver position for the Cincinnati Bengals. And this is obviously what we're dealing with right now at that wide receiver spot. We will see if that changes throughout the course of the offseason. Again, I don't think Cole Burgess is going to be a guy that can drastically change that. But down the line, if somebody gets hurt, I think he's a guy you could rely on to call up from your practice squad and make an impact for your football team. I'm a big fan of Cole Burgess and his abilities out there on the football field. We'll see if he's got NFL-type talent, but he certainly is a very, very talented football player. Next, let's talk about Andrew Coker. He is an offensive tackle. I think one of the major takeaways throughout the season was you probably need a little bit more depth at that position. Look, offensive tackles are hard to come by. Here's a guy in Andrew Coker that was with Vegas to start the preseason in 2024. He was an undrafted guy and eventually landed with Cincinnati. He will be back in the offseason as well. Raymond Johnson the third has been with Cincinnati multiple times. Throughout his career. He's had several stints here with Cincinnati. He's going to be back at that defensive end spot. He's a guy that's more of a veteran type of player, and the Bengals feel good about the things that he can bring to the table as far as just being a good voice in that room. That's another thing. If these guys that are getting these future signings, none of these guys are really going to be bums, right? They're all going to be decent guys because they're really not going to have an opportunity to make that much of an impact on the football field, but they're good locker room guys and good in the meeting rooms as well. I think the Bengals feel that way about Raymond Johnson III. We'll continue with our video here in a moment, but first, I want to give a shout-out to our friends over at Game Time, because Game Time is the sponsor of today's show. And the best place to get playoff tickets for the NFL is Game Time. I've been to several Bengals playoff games in the past. Think about when the Bengals went on their Super Bowl run, that Vegas game at home, that was electric. The first time that the Bengals won a playoff game and however many years that was awesome. How did I get my tickets? With Game Time. Really recommend you guys do that as well. Also, spring training right around the corner for the Cincinnati Reds down in Arizona. Head on out to Goodyear and check out those Red Legs. Should be poised for a decent season with Terry Francona at that manager spot. They also have a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks is the easiest way to find and buy tickets to live events. My two favorite features on Game Time: the seat views. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy with Game Time. Secondly, the event cancellation protection. Big fan of this. If you're at a concert or whatever and the artist has to cancel on you, that's fine. Game Time's not going to screw you over. They're going to get you a good refund there and not make you have to pay for not going to a concert. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets at the lowest prices, guaranteed. PJ Jules next up here out of Southern Illinois. The Bengals signed him after the 2024 NFL draft as an undrafted free agent. They really liked what he was able to do at that safety spot. Was on the practice squad all year. I'm really excited to have PJ Jules back in that offseason role, and we'll see if he can make a run at potentially making the roster. Jaylen Key. I always liked Jaylen Key. The year he spent at Alabama, again, was one of those guys that was a draft pick in 2024, so I feel like a team thought he was worthy of being drafted. I think he's a good person to have as far as a future signing goes. We'll see if Jaylen Key can develop into an NFL guy or not. Of course, played a little bit of college football at Alabama, which always is intriguing for NFL teams. Another opportunity for you guys to get involved with our show here at Bengals Breakdown. Name a Bengals practice squad member you want back. Somebody that might not be on this list, could perhaps be a veteran that has an opportunity to leave if they so desire. But let me know in the comments section one Cincinnati Bengal that was on the practice squad in 2024 that you want back next season. Tashawn Manning, another guy here, was an undrafted guy in 2023, and the Bengals were able to acquire him during the season. And by all accounts, he did some good things with the Bengals practice squad. Kendric Pryor. Now, this guy you probably have heard of. He signed with the Bengals originally in 2022. Kind of made a run at the active roster. Didn't end up making it. I believe it was Jacksonville that picked him up, and then he was on their 53-man, but ultimately didn't really see much time. Has been with Cincinnati the past 2 years. The coaches absolutely love this guy. He's good to have, great practice squad wide receiver to have. He made an impact a little bit in the preseason, never really got to do anything during the regular season. This guy's played a ton of football. I believe he was at Wisconsin for 6 years. So he's a good guy that's been around a lot of football to have on your practice squad. Pleased to have Kendric Pryor back, and I think that was kind of a no-brainer for Cincinnati. This last guy here, Craig Young, I'm going to be completely honest with you. Today was the first day I had heard of Craig Young. He sounds like a guy that's out working with my dad, but hopefully he can provide some kind of benefit to the Bengals on their offseason roster. He was an Ohio State guy before transferring to Kansas. Maybe there's some kind of Ohio connection there, but he will be back with the Bengals in some capacity this offseason. Before we get out of here, make sure you guys give me a follow over on Twitter for all the latest Bengals news, rumors, and updates. We're going to be live tomorrow on our Bengals Breakdown channel, and I'll have that link posted to my Twitter page. Give me a follow at StoneShields_.